Welcome to Ghost Tea Podcast. I'm your host, Ariel Willow.
And I'm your co-host, Alyssa from LaRussa Mystic.
I'm so excited.
We are starting off season 2.
Yes, this is the first episode of season 2 of Ghost Tea Podcast. I'm so excited for you guys to meet Alyssa. But before we get into it, as I want to mention with all of the episodes, we also want to remind you that everyone has different views on things, and that's okay. We don't ask you to believe what we do. We just want to share what we've found in our personal path with you all. So, with that said, Alyssa, who the heck are you?
What's up, bestie? Who the hell? I feel like that's like the worst interview question ever. It's like you're going to a job and they're like, "Who are you?" And it's like, I literally don't know
You're
who
like,
I
I
am.
don't even know. I don't even know
Well,
myself.
I'll give you the short and skinny. So my name is Alyssa, and I also go by LaRussa Mystic. I am a clairvoyant. I am a witch, an occult practitioner, a Hellenic polytheist, a demonultress, a reader, a psychic, a small business owner, a scientist, and a friendly Canadian. So that's who I am in a nutshell.
Holy crap. That's a lot.
I've got all my
You're,
Girl Scout
you're like, also, I'm the president. Let's just throw that in there.
president, CEO, baby, and
Hell
co-host
yeah.
podcast. So I got to add that in there too.
Yes. So can you give us a little introduction on like how you got into your spiritual path? Like what kind of brought you, because obviously you're on Ghost Tea because you're also spiritual, you're also a witch, clairvoyant, all that stuff. And I'm really curious, and I want my viewers to also know how you got started on your spiritual path, like what brought you to where you are today.
Awesome question. It actually started pretty early on. I was about the age of 9 when I first discovered witchcraft. Now, of course, this was before we had the beautiful world of internet. So in order to learn about witchcraft, you really had to be purposeful about it. You really had to go to the library. Yes, the public library, they exist. You'd have to go to the public library and search out a book unless you were gifted a book. So, a girlfriend of mine at the time, who I'm actually still friends with, um, she is also a witch, which is great. So we stuck with it. We were 9 and we went to the library. We lied to our parents and said we were gonna do we were gonna do research on some historical event, but instead we were diving into the occult section of the library. So we like, and I mean back then the options for occult books were kind of limited. Like you had
Right.
Raven Wolf, or I think that's the name, Silver Raven Wolf, and you had Scott Cunningham and like a handful of others. Like it really wasn't quite as robust as you can find today. So we
Right.
grabbed the stereotypical looking witchcraft books and we dived into it and we checked them out and we hid them in our backpacks and we brought them home. And that is literally where it started, was the ripe age of 9. And actually she would come visit on weekends and we would start doing spells. So let me just preface this by saying also around this time was when the original movie The Craft was really big, and for good reason.
Oh, yep.
Classic.
Yep.
Classic. Um, and so we had it in our heads that we could do the spells that they were doing. So we were unknowingly practicing very Wicca heavy magic, like at
Right.
9, 10, 11 years old. Like we had no idea that it was really influenced by Wicca, which by the way, we are not Wiccan. But it really started that early on. And then as time went on, I continued to be very interested in all kinds of different facets of witchcraft. But as you know, when you're young, you're still trying to discover other parts of who you are beyond just spiritualism. So
Yeah. Yeah.
spiritualism didn't take a front seat until much later in life. If anything, the most important thing at the time were, friends and school and, those sorts of things. So really heavy focus on spiritualism didn't come until much later in life. But that's where it all started, was nice and early. And I would say that the the interest kind of waxed and waned as certain things happened in life. I grew up in a military family, so we moved around quite often, every 2 to 3 years, give or take. So I would always be introduced to all these new people, and I would never share that I was into witchcraft because it was quite taboo at the time. Not to say it isn't now, but it was certainly taboo. Actually, correct me if I'm wrong, Ariel, but I believe around that time, I'm thinking early to mid 2000s, wasn't that one of the big hypes of Satanic Panic?
I think so, because I like around the beginning of the 2000s, like 2000, 2001, shit like that. I remember, isn't that around the time that Practical Magic came out too? And so
Oh,
people were kind of getting into it again, and it was kind of a
mm,
rise in um kind of like the quote unquote like new age spirituality
mhm.
and a kind of revision of Wicca and witchcraft and things like that. Because every time a big movie like that comes out, it kind of revives
Yep.
everything, you know, it kind of brings everything to the surface. So I do think that that was kind of around that time. I was still Christian and a little girl at that time. So well, I say little girl, I was like 11.
Yeah,
So
girl, you're only 1 year older than me. You were totally at the, age of being able to know, like around that age, like sort of generally what spiritualism kind of is. Not
right,
quite the same as you would
right.
now, but you definitely are more aware around that age.
Yeah. Well, and what's funny is that even at the age of, I think I was probably around like 7 or 8, maybe 6 years old. I did do a spell with my sister. I remember vividly like sitting on her.
Oh.
Yeah, it was so cute, but it was actually really funny and get ready to laugh. So I was in the bedroom with her, and because we had seen Kiki's Delivery Service, the Studio Ghibli movie,
Yes.
and I'm so obsessed with that. And so her and I were just like completely obsessed with it. And then we were also really obsessed with Mary Kate and Ashley, and they had
Hmm.
this movie called Double Double Toil and Trouble.
Yeah, I forgot about
And
that movie.
yeah, yeah. And so we got really obsessed with witches. And there was also this Australian show called The Worst Witch. I think they remade it on Netflix. I haven't seen the remake yet, but we saw like the really bad, like super campy version. And we were really into that kind of stuff, but we weren't encouraged to actually practice it. Cause like I think my parents just never assumed that it would really influence us that much. But in our free time, we would be outside and we'd be calling in the elements, and like the wind would start picking up, and then there would be a car accident, and we were like, oh my god, our powers like caused a car accident. Like and then
Yes.
and then we would be like in our room around a candle, like we would take like a taper candle without my mom knowing, and we would just like put it on the floor, and we'd be like, we're calling in the caterpillar king, woo, like
Oh,
all this
dear.
shit. It was like that was pretty much like the height spirituality as far as like witchcraft goes when I was a kid. But like we all play outside and connect to that. But I was
Of course.
playing with fairies all the time. Like my
God, love
clairvoyance was
that.
so strong as a kid. I remember very vividly, like me and my sister would dance around our bedroom, and my mom would come in. She was like, what are you doing? We were like, oh, we're dancing with the angels. Because like Azrael and whoever else would be there dancing with us in our bedroom. And my mom was like, oh, that's so cute, like, but she wasn't seeing them. And then my sister and I went through this like really big phase of fairy stuff. Like we were obsessed with fairies, and I was always playing with them outside and making them little houses and going to the river and like talking to the little sprites in the water and like all stuff like that.
Oh, I
um
love that.
yeah, and well, it's because it's magical. It's so magical, and like there's so many things that influence you to do that. And I don't know. I'm sure you remember the movie Fairy Tale. It
Oh
was
yeah.
like
Yep.
the video. It was the movie about the two girls who like discover fairies, and then like
Hmm.
the yep. We were super into that movie, and that's kind of what sparked our whole thing of like, oh, we're interacting with these things already outside, so why don't we just build them houses? Like in the movie.
That is so unbelievably adorable. I mean, we my friend and I were kind of doing similar things, playing outside, calling in the elements, the four
Mm-hmm.
corners. We never called on Caterpillar King, bestie. We never did that, but
I don't even know who that is. Like, I don't know where we got that. But like one day I was just like, obviously there's a Caterpillar King, so let's fucking
clearly
call him in.
we need to be chatting with the fuzzy Caterpillar King. It's just a
Oh
thing.
my
It's just
god.
we have to do.
Watch me
You know
like
what?
start watch me start working with one at some point. I'm gonna lose my shit.
Oh my God, I would live for that. I mean, honestly, like when you're a kid, you just have such unfettered joy and
Oh
connection to
yeah.
nature. It is no holds barred. It's strong. I mean, I wasn't necessarily playing with fairies or necessarily seeing them in that way, but I was very attuned to the energies around me, and especially when it came to earth, using earth, which of course, we'll get to this at a later time when we talk about where we are today, yourself and me as a little witchy group coven members,
Yes.
but I'm the earth element. Psst. But anyway, I was very, very into being outside and connecting with earth, and that's where I was largely getting that really strong connection to the earth energies, and it was a very physical, a very visceral feeling
Yes.
energetically. But like I said, as you get older and things wax and wane, you kind of let go of certain things that are important to you, and spirituality kind of fell off the boat for quite some time. But when I reached about the age of 16, 17, that's when I noticed I started to have a lot more spiritual experiences. And at the time, I passed them off as if they were not important. I didn't really give them as much value as I should have or could have. Um, because I was 16. I was concerned with,
Yeah.
being with friends and like,
Right, right.
cute, cute people, like hanging out with the cute, famous, happy people, whatever, whatever I was even in. Who the fuck was I even? I don't even know. Um, so I would have these experiences, and this is going to lead me to a story that I wasn't even thinking of telling, but you know what? We're on it, so we're gonna roll with it.
Go
So
for it.
this was one of not my first Ouija board experience. So for those who are wondering what a Ouija board is, it's that board. It's in a lot of movies.
The
People refer
famous
to it
spirit board.
it exactly. It's got a planchette. It's this little thing where you put your fingers on it and it's supposed to move on its own, which honestly it can. But anyway, it's also got letters and it's got like a little yes no. Anyway, it's been very heavily popularized by media as this like really funky thing, and so kids, especially for at least for me growing up, it was always like a fun thing to mess around with. So it was about 16, and I had a friend of mine come up from the East Coast, and she was staying with me, and she brought her Ouija board. Now I'm sure she's a medium because she also had a lot of experiences, but we were in my bedroom, and we had the Ouija board, and it was just the two of us, and the planchette was moving, and we were talking to a spirit, and I really don't know if the spirit was being honest with us or not, because I don't even really think we totally knew what we were doing. But the spirit's name told us his name was Ace, and I say his because I got the feeling it was a masculine spirit of some sort. It said his name was Ace, spelled out ACE, and I was like, okay, sweet. We're talking to Ace, everything's cool. I'm like, what's up, Ace? You're like my Ace boy. And anyway,
Yo, bro.
it was so cringy. And after we closed out the board, which actually, to be fair, I should give myself a little pat on the back. We closed out the board. Like we
Yeah.
we closed it out, and we were like, we're closing this portal. Like we were so look at me go. So we closed out the board, and I go to bed. She was sleeping upstairs in the spare bedroom. So I was by myself. I had a little, single bed. Like there wasn't normally you'd have your bestie sleeping next to you, but it was like literally a single bed. But anyway,
Yeah.
so we put the Ouija board away. We go to bed. I wake up at about 3:30-ish in the morning to the sound of something falling across the room. And I woke up like absolutely sweating, like, oh my God, what is that? I run to flip on the light, and there was a tiara. So I had a big teddy bear in the corner of my room that I put a little tiara on, like a shitty dollar store tiara on top of this bear. I
Yeah.
don't know, dude, 16. So I had the tiara was on the opposite side of the room. Like
Oh,
I truly think
like it was
that was
thrown.
I truly think it was our boy Ace. He was just like, I'm just gonna chuck this pew, right across the
Hot
room.
damn.
And I just remember being like, this is insane. I'm not telling anybody about it. And I seriously didn't. I didn't say anything for like maybe 5 or 6 years. I was just like, I'm going insane. There's no possible way that that happened. Like I was really closing myself off to actual real experiences.
Right.
I
Well,
should
because
probably
at that
see.
age, you don't know what to do about it. Like
No.
you're so new to everything. You don't have anybody to talk to. And like as a kid, I think there's always the feeling of like, oh, I'm gonna get in trouble. And so
Mm-hmm.
you kind of keep it to yourself when you're having those kind of experiences rather than as an adult being like, oh, hey, has anybody else experienced something like this? And
Mm-hmm.
not really
Mm-hmm.
being afraid that you're going to get in trouble with your parents. Whereas, like, as a kid, you kind of overthink what you're sharing because of that. And
Yeah.
that's why, like, I always am so, so particular with how I interact with parents who are like, oh, well, I think my kid is spiritual. Like, how can I support them? I'm like, please let them talk to you about things, because
Mm-hmm.
that is the biggest mistake that people make, is just not giving validation to someone's experience, or saying that they're doing something bad, and like it just makes them more secretive, and it makes them have these experiences that they feel like they can't talk to anybody about, and therefore, like, if they're having a problem, they're not going to want to talk to you about it because they don't want to get in trouble. So it's
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you're right on the nose. I mean, full disclosure, I wasn't raised in a religious household, not by any really strict sort of way. Not to say that there wasn't influences of Christianity of some sort, because our grandparents were involved in the church and stuff
yeah,
like that. But it really truly wasn't something that was forced on me, and I was more or less sort of encouraged to explore religions or spirituality if I wanted to. And of course, it just always stuck since, that time that we went to the library
right.
to where we are today. It was always witchcraft. It was always my number one go to. And I just never connected. I tried. I went to the church. I tried learning about, the Bible. And this was through an Anglican lens, I should also say. So it was specifically an Anglican church that I was being brought to, but I just did not connect. I did not, it just wasn't for me. So, when I reached about the age of 14, so we're kind of jumping backwards a little bit from that story I just told, but about the age of 14 was when I was really, really explicit with my mom. She was a single mom, I should also add. So there was no father figure involved there. But I basically told her, hey, you know what? I really don't want to be going to church anymore. And she was totally cool with it. Now, also, she was a really open person. She let me go through my gothy punk phase. Like I was a skater girl, like Avril Lavigne wannabe. I was the gothy kid with the chains. Like I was the whole thing. I had piercings. Oh man, like she just totally let me roll with it. So I really was given a lot of freedom to discover who I wanted to be, or express myself in a way that felt comfortable. So I was I was really fortunate in that sense. So witchcraft has always been a part of me and has always been there, although in different sort of intensities. So, but after that experience at 16, I totally just like the floodgates were open. Like
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
starting to get all kinds of crazy experiences. I was starting to see, oh, you know what? That just reminded me of something. I, okay, haven't thought about this in years. I was probably about 17. I swear I was seeing dead people just chilling, like walking down the street. So I
Mm-hmm.
am pretty sure that there was this woman. No, I'm guarantee she was dead. I guarantee she was this really beautiful woman who dressed, I would say, kind of like still 90s style. So we're
Oh,
thinking
oh
like,
yeah.
do
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like
Uh-huh.
90s style. And
Yep.
she would just be going for a walk. She'd have like her you know those like shitty little earphones, the ones that used to have that clasp that go around your ear to the back of your ear.
Oh yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
remember those
Yep.
gross honking?
Yep.
She
Yep.
was wearing those and she was just like dancing, you know, like having a time, like just going for her little walks. And I remember seeing her almost every single day, like walking towards the school bus. And I remember one time I asked my mom, I was like, do you even know where she, like, is she a neighbor of ours? And she's like, who? Who are you talking about? And I
Oh
was
my
like, it's this
God.
woman. She looks like this. And she's like, I literally have never seen her.
Oh
And
my God.
trust me when I say, we knew who our neighbors were because it was a pretty relatively tight knit community, but also one where the houses were far enough apart that you kind of like there weren't as many people in the neighborhood as there would be if it
Right.
was like a more squished neighborhood.
Was she already always wearing the same thing?
Come to think of it, pretty damn close. Sometimes it would be a
Holy
different colored
shit.
jacket. Sometimes, but I just thought that was her workout gear, you know? I was just
Yeah,
like, look
yeah.
at her go. She's living her life. Like
Go
she's
little
living
rock star.
go little rock star, like she's living her 90s life. Like I just no judgment, man. I was like absolutely taken with this woman and my mother had
Wow.
no clue who it was. She's like, I don't know who you're talking about. And I was like, rude. So yeah, I just remembered that. So there'd be experiences like that where it's just but you know what? I didn't really dwell on it. I was just kind of like,
Yeah.
okay, well, let's move on from this because I'm gonna get freaked out if I think about it. So I just like moved on with my life and continued to have experiences that, you know, if I'm gonna really sit down and think about it in retrospect, I'm sure I could come up with more examples, but I think you kind of know where I'm going with this. It's just that the experiences started to get more profound. They started to get more or less obvious, like in a sense where literally I couldn't discern if it was a dead person or not.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, when I was younger, it was a lot harder for me to discern. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was
Mm-hmm.
so much harder for me to tell because your abilities are so strong, like you're so in tune with it because let's be honest, the more that people tell you and like gaslight you into thinking that you can't see what you see, the less
Yeah.
easy it is to see them. It just
I
makes it
always
to where
say that self-doubt is a Claire killer.
yes. Yes, 1000%. And like I noticed that the more I shut out other people's opinions about what I was seeing and
Mm-hmm.
experience, the more I was able to clearer and connect on such a deeper level and really experience things because there's nothing wrong with people sharing their opinions, right? But when it is like there has to be the understanding that another person's opinion is not always fact if you are experiencing it. Does that
Mm-hmm.
make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like if
Absolutely.
someone says that your shirt is orange, but you're wearing a green shirt, like are you going to believe yourself, the person wearing it and experiencing that shirt, or are you going to believe someone else? Like what about them makes you feel that they're an authority over what you're seeing with your own eyes? Um
Absolutely. And I mean, especially in your formative years, you really lean on adults to steer you in the
yeah,
right
yeah.
direction. You really look for that validation, that confirmation. And if you're going to be told that your shirt is pink, you're going to be questioning, is this actually a pink shirt or not?
Right.
Like, am I
Right.
like my mom is telling me it's not a pink shirt or it is, you know, like you're going to really start to question it. And I feel like there's even people who are well into their adulthood that still don't, you know, have
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
that are still very easily swayed by the opinions of others and it really just comes down to being confident in yourself and in your abilities and confident in the experiences you have and remembering that you're valid in your experiences and that if you if you choose to share them with another person um, to also understand that that person may not understand and may call to question your experience, but at the end of the day, it's yours.
Yeah, 1000%. Because I remember, like, growing up and my sister I would tell her what I was seeing, and she was like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. But come to
Mm.
find out, like later in my life, only a couple of years ago, she was like, I saw everything that you saw, Ariel. But I told you that I
Interesting.
wasn't seeing it because I didn't want to egg you on. I didn't want you to pursue it because it scared me. And I think that's
Ah.
really important to remember, is that a lot of times when people are either invalidating your experience or saying that you're not experiencing what you're experiencing, it can be out of fear on their part. And so it's important to be able to discern whether or not the authority is coming from someone who is afraid or coming from someone who actually knows what they're talking about. And that's why, like, I find it so important to like really encourage confidence and bravery within people's practices, because I think that makes such a huge difference. A
Bingo.
huge
Yep.
difference.
You're absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct. And I mean, and I think that that kind of brings me to another point that I think more to like current me and you is after going through school and finishing my science degrees and I really shut out my spiritual abilities during that point too, I should
Yeah.
also say. I was just like I was so into science that it didn't even like magic was just I witchcraft, none of it, like it was just I it was like science itself can almost become a belief system where
Right,
you
right.
believe that nothing can exist outside of the realm of being proven in science, and that in and of itself can become something that you believe in a sense.
Yeah.
It almost becomes the faith of science.
Right.
It's just it
Well,
was
and
very
I think
strange.
I think that's kind of also along the lines of like what atheism is. Like
Mm,
atheism really leans into science. And I think there's like this is the confusing part, I think, for a lot of people, is that, and Alyssa and I are very similar in this sense, is that when people come to us and they're like, well, where are you getting this information? Like they're trying to look for sources,
hmm
which I get.
hmm
Like that's totally valid. I wish I had all these academic sources to be like, yeah, this is where I'm getting this information and stuff, but I just don't. And for someone who's a very science oriented person, like I never took science. I all of the science that I've learned has been from cooking and like trial and error and just
hmm
watching like
hmm
Netflix documentaries. Like I never was taught science. I never took a formal class on science. And so understanding these like really out there concepts and explaining it to people, they're like, oh, so you've taken a class on science? And I'm like, no, I have no academic backing of how I understand things. And they're like, but you're explaining a scientific thing. And I'm like, I know, but that's what I've been told by spirit. So it's really confusing for
hmm
people, because it's like, if you've never been taught science but you know science because you've been told by something that is not scientifically proven about
Yep.
science. How do you know
Not scientifically
science?
proven yet, madam, yet.
Right.
We will get there. I know we will. Because honestly, like magic to me, this is a really good, actually, you know what, Ariel, let's make a little note.
We should.
This is a great topic. It's one of my favorite, is to talk about the intersectionality between magic and science.
Yes.
And if our listeners are interested in that, that is one that I think would be a great topic for us to talk about.
Yes.
Um, and
I would actually really love to have a guest on there. I'm thinking of Corey,
ooh,
because Corey is really into like science stuff, and the
hmm
concept of like how science collides with spiritual experiences. So I'll have to ask him if he's comfortable doing that. But I would love, yeah, I would love to go over that topic, because that's a really interesting thing to dive into. There's all
it's
these
such
little
a
bunny
beautiful topic.
trails that we're seeing on the trail that we're on right now. We're like, oh, let's go there.
As I'm talking, my brain is firing. I'm like, oh, that's a great
Right.
topic. That's a great topic.
Yeah. Yes. Yes,
But
yes,
yeah, and
yes.
so essentially after So I'm really just coming to a culmination as far as my story goes to how I came to be right here as a co-host to Ghost Tea podcast is after I finished all of my schooling, I finished my master's degree and I started working, I was able to really turn off that heavy academic part of myself and really allow myself to find joy and purpose and meaning in other aspects of life now that I had a little bit more time to do so. And it took a really big awakening moment after a year of it was a really tough year. I took a whole lot of time sick leave. It was bad mental health stuff. It was just, rock bottom in a sense, rock bottom. And then basically coming out the other side, being more connected and in tune with spirit and nature than I have ever been before in my life. And
Yeah.
and that is why whenever I joke and I say, people go through tower moments,
Yes.
tower referring to the tarot card tower that everybody's afraid of, but
Yes.
truly it can lead to beautiful things. The tower doesn't always mean it will always end badly. It typically means the birth of something new, making way for
Yes.
something new in the wake of the destruction or of the ending of something else. And
Right.
so that tower moment was pivotal. It was
Hmm.
pivotal for me to set aside, basically bury and grieve the me I thought I was, and to welcome in the the spiritual side of me that has always been there but was always largely ignored. And
Right.
once I got there, it was the most beautiful experience to get there, but also confusing. It was very confusing,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
like, again, like, I should also say that throughout all of these years I was not talking to anybody. I was very uh introverted as far as my spiritualism and witchcraft and things like that are concerned. I was very much a solo practitioner, if you will, for the majority of my life until social media, until
Yeah.
I decided to start a business. And the business of Larusa Mystic being metaphysical in nature, and encompassing crystals and encompassing tarot and encompassing all kinds of things like that, that it wasn't until I started putting myself out there that I was able to connect with other people in other on other paths, and be able to really widen my experiences, as far as being able to relate to other people, and also to be able to hear about the beauty of community, the beauty of being able to share your experiences with people who understand where you're coming from, or at least make a concerted effort to understand where you're coming from,
Yeah. Yeah.
changed everything. And that's pretty much how I came to meet Ariel, was through TikTok. And so once I joined on TikTok, because I was just like, after Vine died, I was like, TikTok's whatever. Like, TikTok's just a Vine wannabe. There's no way I'm gonna go on TikTok. And I finally caved, and it was just like, just dropped a bomb on everything and totally opened up the world. And I discovered Ariel on TikTok, and I had purchased a reading from Ariel. And basically, the reading, no joke, you guys. I purchased this. I'm like flailing my arms around right now. So I'm flailing. I purchased a reading, and I wanted her to give me a reading on basically deity work. There was a deity I was working with at the time, Wepawet, which is Anubis, the Egyptian god, Anubis's brother,
Which
but
I had
also
no idea who Wepawet was
he's
before that
awesome.
session.
And
Yeah.
also, I wanted her to do a reading on me opening my business, Larusa Mystic. And we did. This was when you were doing you were still doing your Zoom video calls.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
we
Which I don't do
connected.
anymore because of my anxiety as of late. But yeah, it was when I used to do that, and we ended up getting on a call, and her session was only supposed to be 30 minutes.
Supposed to be
It's supposed to be 30 minutes. And it ended up being, we ended up talking on the phone for
6 hours.
6 hours. 6
Unreal.
hours.
And when I tell you guys that there was an instant connection, I don't know how to describe it. I mean, there was a whole lot of stuff that happened after that before we really truly connected. But at that point in time, it became very apparent to the both of us that there
There
was
was
more
something.
to us meeting
There's
than we
something
thought.
there. Yeah, it
There's
was like
something
the
there.
yeah, it was like the Beauty and the Beast moment where she's like in the garden. She's like, "Oh my God, I actually like him." Yeah, it was literally like that. Like I remember being on that phone call. I actually told her this the other day. I would remember being on that phone call and having these thoughts because at the time I was so afraid of people. Like you all don't even know. Like I was so afraid of people and because I had been very burned, like I had had some really shitty experiences, so I was like, very professional, but then it was hard for me to stay professional because she was so nice and she was so easy to talk to, but there kept being moments where I'd be like, oh my God, Ariel, don't like say too much, like she's gonna think she's friends with you, and then you're gonna like have to maintain this like fake friendship and it's just gonna be so much work and like I felt so
Exhausting.
bad, but I was like, I need to like watch myself because if I'm too nice, she's gonna think I'm her best friend or something.
And that's on
And
trauma.
look at us now. I know.
Now, oh my God. I
Yeah.
am so, so happy that we have come together and we connected really, really easily, really,
Yeah.
really quickly. We stayed
Well,
in
even
touch.
yeah, because even after like I remember vividly getting off of that phone call and my roommate at the time walking into my room and being like, was that a client? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, Ariel, you can't do that. You can't do that. And I was like, do what? She was like, they're not your friends. And I was like, oh my God. I was like,
Rude.
I know. Well, I mean, that person was rude anyway, but like, I was really, I remember like sitting with myself that night and just overthinking the whole conversation and being like, oh my God, I was like too nice. I was too nice, or like just overthinking the whole thing. So Alyssa actually friended me on Instagram, and we mutually followed each other for like I don't know, a little over a year maybe.
Hmm.
And I remember I would see her posts and be like, "Oh, I can't interact with them because she's gonna think I'm her friend." Like I would see your Instagram stories or like your posts, and I'd be like, "I want to like them," and then I was like, "Wait, no, I can't make her think I'm her friend." Like
Looking at
it
you,
was
looking at me,
I
looking at
know.
you, looking at me.
I know literally and it's just so funny to think about now because like obviously I mean Alyssa is like you're not supposed to have favorite people but she is one of my favorite people and I enjoy her company so much and there's so many times that I talk to her and I'm just like that feeling where like you love someone so much that you just feel like your heart is going to burst out of your chest. Like I honestly don't feel like I've ever felt that with anybody other than my partner at the time, like at right now, other than
Let
Alyssa.
me tell you, ma'am. After that call, I had a much different experience. My husband basically waltzed up to me and was like, "You're going to be her friend." And I was like, "Yep,
You're gonna
I
be
am."
friends. You're coming home with me.
I'm like, "Yep, or we're going to get married. We're going to adopt. It's going to be great." Like, it's gonna be fantastic. And I totally like, everything, all of our, interactions after that were extremely organic. Like we didn't
Yeah,
like you were pushing on me, I wasn't pushing on you. It all happened divine timing. It
yeah,
all happened as it should have. And of course, when we connected and and I was talking to my husband Scott, he was like, "Yeah, I called this like a year and a half."
I already told you.
I was like, "Yeah, you did, yeah."
The
It
Scott,
just
the all-knowing magic 8 ball. I know. I like I cannot because it's so funny like after we reconnected because I don't know something sparked conversation through Instagram and we started messaging through Instagram and
right.
then I was like hey I have this group chat with like another person would you like to join and you were like yeah for sure and then we got in a group chat and then it ended up being 4 of us and then the 4 of us ended up becoming a makeshift coven. Like it was kind of
Yeah.
like this thing where we were like, wow, we're really close friends. And then we did ritual together, and all of us had like an element really
Mm-hmm.
show up for us through like a
Yeah.
vision. And all of them were different. And at first we were like, well, I thought I was going to be fire, but then I was like water. And it was like this whole thing, because we have the elements that we are convinced that we're part of, right? that
Yes.
that are
Yeah.
integrated in who we are. And then when you get into it, it's just like, that's not who I am at all. And you start realizing how alike you are to the element that came through for you. So that's,
Exactly. Exactly. And
yeah,
there I was like, I'm definitely fire. Leo sun over here. I'm fire. I have,
yeah.
I'm quick to temper. Like I've always been kind of, sharp tongue. Like I've always been extroverted, loud, boisterous. I've always been wanted to be the center of attention. I never have issues talking to people. I'm definitely fire energy. No, seriously, I'm earth. Can we
Yeah.
please take a moment to be like, as if I didn't know that from like,
Literally being
basic
obsessed with crystals. Like more than half
uh,
of her house is filled with
just
crystals.
if I could live in a geode, I would live in a geode. I would be a little
This
geo
is my
dude.
house now.
Like it literally, but and like it all made sense once I saw that element in our ritual. It
Hmm.
instantly was just like clicked. It just clicked, and I was like, yep,
Yeah.
that's it. It makes sense for everything from my childhood being so nature oriented, literally
Yes.
doing environmental science
Yeah.
as my
Yeah.
my career, and being so connected to the ancient Greek goddess Artemis, who is heavily heavily associated with wilderness and wild animals. Like how did it not make sense? It just, when it clicks, it really clicked. And
Right.
you ended up being, as to no surprise to any of your listeners, water, element of
Yes.
water, being very emotional. You are one of the most emotional people I've ever met, and I mean that in a really good way. You have a huge heart, and you have so many. You know what? That reminds me of that Mean Girls. Who's that Mean Girls? Where she's like, oh my God, is it? I think it's a quote from Mean Girls. I can't remember, but it's just I like you feel so much you have so many feelings. I have so many feelings. Like it's great. You have a huge heart. You're so full of love, and you're gorgeous, and your energy is so big, and you truly encompass the best qualities of water. And to me, it made total sense. But you also thought you were fire.
Yes. I was convinced that I was going to be fire, because I was like, I'm passionate. I'm like at sexy. Like I'm so fire. And then obviously, like when I thought about it, I was like, it's very obvious that I'm water. Like if I'm upset, I take a bath. If I'm good, I take a bath. If I'm not good, then I take a bath. If I need to think,
Mm-hmm.
I take a bath. If growing up, like I literally was at the sim center, like a pool center, every single fucking day of the week. Like 7 days out of the week, I was at the sim center. I had a yearly pass that I would renew, and I was always there. They called me a pool rat because I was always there, and I would never
I've
leave.
never heard.
I would never leave. And literally, like I would get there in the middle of the afternoon. Like as soon as I woke up and I ate, I was like, "Okay, mom, like throw me in the pool." And then she would take me to the pool, and I would stay there literally all day, and I would not leave until they closed at night. And I was always in the water, like
Part
always in the
fish,
water. Yeah, well,
mermaid, if
because
you will. Ha
yeah,
ha
and
ha.
I almost even drowned. Almost
Oh
drowned twice in my life. But I can,
no.
like, I love the water. I love it. It's just absolutely, I'm obsessed with it. And the
Bessie, I'm glad you
ocean,
didn't drown. I
me
like you.
too.
I'm glad you're here.
It's a bad way to go.
Yeah,
It's
it
not my
really is.
favorite. Not my favorite. But with that said, let's move on to the next one. What is something that you wish people knew about you? What is something that you maybe don't really mention or don't really talk about, but that you just kind of wish people just knew about you?
Ooh.
I know.
That's a good
I
question.
know.
Oh, let me pull an Elon Musk and just get quiet for a minute. Hold on.
Elon Musk.
I don't know if you guys
Oh
know this,
my
but whenever Elon Musk does interviews, he's notorious for like he truly thinks before he speaks.
God. Oh, does he?
And
I've
he
never
oh
heard
he
an
does.
interview with him.
He'll just sit there and it'll just be deadpan silent, and then he'll speak and it'll be beautiful and eloquent, and there's me, this blathering idiot that's just like so hold on, let me think about that. What about me? You want to know the first thing that came to mind, and I don't know
Yeah.
why this has any importance at all, but I feel like I want to share this. I was known for many years of my life. I think I had them as pets for 8 years, but I had pet rats for
Aw.
8 years. And I was and still am in heart now, even though I don't have rats anymore, a crazy rat lady. I literally had rats and they were my everything and I love them so much. They're such beautiful pets. And I don't know why, but you know, people tend to think of people with rats a certain way, and it would always come as a surprise if I ever shared with people that I would have a pet rat. And I don't know why that has come up, but we're rolling with it. I had pet rats for a long time, and they were best pets ever. But I also know an unholy amount of information about rats. So if you like talk to me
A
about
rat
rats,
episode.
dude, I could go on. I don't even want to tell you how many poor fucking people have listened to me go on about rats. As soon as they say I don't like rats, I'm like, well, you should know this, this, and this, and this about them
Oh
before
my
you
God.
judge. So
You're
I don't
like,
know
let me
why.
educate you on rats really quick.
Oh my God, I'm the same way with pufferfish. Like, it's just for some reason I
Aw.
just know a lot about pufferfish. It's just I don't know.
They're
So
just the little cheese puffs of the sea.
they're so cute.
They're
They're
so cute.
so
They're so cute.
spiky.
They
They're
are.
the cutest. And so I don't know. I just feel like that's something.
They're the little cacti of the sea. Well, they're the little
They're the
cactus fish.
cacti. They're a spicy balloon. That's what they are.
Spicy balloon.
Spicy balloon.
Is that what I am when I get angry? Like what?
You're spicy balloon. I
A spicy balloon fish. Oh my God.
I'll give you a hug.
Oh my God.
I literally don't know why that was the first thing that came to mind. Is the people must know you love rats. Well,
They
there
must
you go.
know that I am a rat connoisseur. No, like
Perceive me in my rat knowledge.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, moving on to the other question that I have for you, and I guess for me too. Maybe it seems egotistical to say that, but here we'll go into it together. Okay, where do you hope to see Ghost Tea Podcast in the next year?
So I'm really, really excited to be your co-host on Ghost Tea Podcast because I think I really envision it as this beautiful opportunity to get deep into topics and to be able to bounce ideas off of one another and to be able to share experiences more um, in a discussion format that, as you can tell from this episode, things just kind of come up organically,
Yeah.
and you really
Yeah.
never know what you say that may connect with someone or may click with someone. And it's in those moments of beauty that you may reach someone who could really use some help, or to feel like they've been heard, or to feel like they can connect with somebody. So one of the things I'd really love to see with Ghost Tea is to be able to open up that more discussion format, to have more of an opportunity to get deep into topics that we are proficient about, topics that we are interested with, and to be able to also bring on other people. Like, we've floated the idea of bringing on Corey, and we also have some other plans for some other guests to come on to talk about specific things. So that's super exciting. And especially
Yeah.
when you're talking about topics like witchcraft or the occult, these are things that if I will, I'm going to go ahead and extend this to you as well. But we feel very passionately about bringing light to these sorts of topics, to bringing
Yes.
light to
Yes.
the things that are seemingly, taboo, or that our people are afraid of, or that is misunderstood, and to be able to find a community of people that are equally as interested and jazzed about talking about these things. That that to me is gorgeous. And I would love to see that just grow and grow and grow within the next year. And I can clearly, I have this vision that it's just going to be us laughing and teaching about things. I'm sure we're going to be talking about some really beautiful topics, but I just the path ahead for Ghost Tea is beautiful, and it is limitless, and I can see it being a force of education, but also a force of healing for people. And that is where I get the fire is lit under my ass when I think about it
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, for sure. Well, because we have our individual like ideas for our businesses, and I feel like what's cool about us coming together for Ghost Tea is that the individual purposes that we kind of had drive us into creating the businesses that we have is a very similar one to what we have for Ghost Tea, but that we
Absolutely.
can't really utilize in our business format. Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense? Like
Yep.
we can't really talk about things like that in our business because it's just not meant for that. It's not meant to be a place that we really share that info to the broad masses. And I feel like I totally agree with you. Like there's so many topics that I've had a lot of people ask me about and I haven't really gone into on the show or even on TikTok because I've just been so scared about judgment, and I've gotten to the point in my life where I'm like, you know what? If I share something and I talk about something that people aren't comfortable with or are afraid of, and it starts a topic, it starts a conversation, then that's really what I want. I
Mm-hmm.
don't care if we agree, but if it's something where I have the ability to talk about it and not be, you know, disrespectful or whatever, um, I want to be able to have a conversation about it because I think that's where you learn the most about yourself and your practice and your spirituality is when you ask yourself questions that make you uncomfortable. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't think growth can happen within staying comfortable. I think it happens when we get out of where we are comfortable and we force ourselves to address things that do make us uncomfortable and we ask ourselves why. And I think that critical thinking is something that um, is so important in spirituality and nobody talks about it. Like nobody
Yep.
talks about it. Like people talk about you know, trust yourself, trust the universe, blah 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 blah, but they don't talk about having critical thinking skills within your practice as well. um you know, not all of the experiences that you have are going to be inherently spiritual. Not all
Mm-hmm.
of the experiences you're going to have are going to be um, major breakthroughs or not influenced by our inner subconscious and skewed in some way. So I think understanding how to get comfortable with asking ourselves uncomfortable questions is such a big part of having growth in our spiritual practices and our lives as a whole. And I really hope
Absolutely.
that Ghost Tea in the next year can kind of bring up those topics. But that kind of goes into the next question, which is where do you hope to see Ghost Tea in 3 years from now?
Ooh, 3 years.
It's a lot of
I
time.
It is a lot of time, and so as we know, everything can change in the matter of a second. All it
Yeah.
takes is one event,
Yeah.
and your whole life is flipped upside down. So I think when I envision where Ghost Tea could be, I'm not even gonna lie, and people can judge me if you want. I don't give a shit. But I see Ghost Tea as the occult version of Joe Rogan.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I
would,
can see that.
how cool would it be to have an occult and witchcraft spiritual version of something as successful as Joe Rogan or
Yeah.
Lex Friedman podcast? Like, could you imagine how to me it's reaching more people and reminding people that they're valid in their experiences, and to be able to open up the door to discussion, and as you just said, to have those conversations about uncomfortable things or things that make you, because obviously there's comfort in comfort, and to be
Yeah.
able to step outside of that and to be able to hear other people's experiences. There is so much power in in coming together and uniting and to being open to listening to people's experiences and to be able to discuss them and to be able to bring them into a format that's much better than TikTok, right? Like you and I, we do
Yeah.
bring these things up quite often on our TikTok pages, and we do go live together where we do talk about it, but this is a much better long form format for us to be able to get into the nitty gritty of topics.
Yeah.
And especially when it comes to things as complex and um, uh, as sometimes very difficult to describe topics like, you know, the occult. I think that when I'm seeing Ghost Tea as far as 3 years from now, I would love to see the audience, you know, the magnitude just fivefold. I want to reach all the witches. I want to reach all the practitioners. I just want to reach all the spiritual people, and to be able to form a community, a safe space, to be able to feel like you can come somewhere where you're not going to be judged, you're not going to be turned away, you're not going to be made to feel less than, you're not going to be made to feel invalidated. And those are very core principles to, you know, my business, the Rusa Mystic, and Ariel's as well, for Ariel Willow.
Mm-hmm.
Is that's what we strive to do every single time we communicate with other people, is to remind them that they're valid and that their experiences are valid. And we bring this forward with Ghost Tea together, and to be able to touch those topics. And I would also love to see guest speakers, especially, you know what, if I'm just dream big, baby, dream big. I'm picturing having some of our most formidable occult authors as
Mm-hmm.
guests.
Yeah,
How
I would
cool
love
would
that.
that be?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's also what I see in you know, a 3 year growth. I could see having some really well known um authors coming in and talking about these topics, and just making it accessible to people, and making, again, really reinforcing that idea of community, that, you know, you're not alone. And we literally just spoke about earlier on in the episode about how we were kind of in the broom closet, you know, like we didn't
Yeah.
really share too much. um you know, let's bring these topics out into the light, because truly they're beautiful topics to talk about.
Yeah. 1,000%.
How about you? How about you?
No, I feel the same way. I would love to see it grow. Obviously, you know, growth is just a kind of a given with anything that you're doing and starting. But I also would love to have the collaboration with you know, authors and creators in the space of the occult and things like that. But also, I would love to have uh, you know, creators who are really known in the science community too. I would love that. I think that'd be so cool to be able to have conversations with someone who is kind of outside of the realm of the occult as well, and ask them
Yes.
about things like that. Because I mean, and that's also to do with growth. You know, growth happens when we get out of our comfort zone, and I think having conversations with people who do practice the occult is amazing, but having people come on who don't practice the occult is also amazing, because it
Mm-hmm.
brings up the uncomfortable, like, oh, like they're not going to quite agree with me, but that's amazing, because it makes
That's
you
beautiful.
critically think about why you believe what you believe, why you pursue what you pursue. And like, oh my God, one of my dream guests would be Neil deGrasse Tyson. Oh, that would be
Oh,
so cool. It'd be so cool.
dude,
I
dude,
would die.
oh,
I would
dude, I would
die.
fangirl so hard. I'd have to really shut up. Like, I would just be like, I mean, he talks a lot. He talks a
Yeah,
lot. So, you know, we really wouldn't have to worry about us saying stupid shit, because
right,
he would be just dominating the conversation.
right.
But
We're
yeah,
like, here,
he's.
just take over our podcast for the day. Like, we don't even care. We don't even have to be in the episode. No, but like he has like his because I know that it started with Carl Sagan, but
Mm-hmm.
Neil deGrasse Tyson took over the show Cosmos, and they did a
Yes.
reboot. I think it was like 2013, 2014, something like that. And I remember that was mind blowing for me. It was so validating and so incredible watching that show. And I cried so many times because I
Mm.
felt so validated in experiences that I had had with like star beings and things like that, or knowledge that they had come through with. And I was just not able to explain it because I don't know science. I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And when you have it broken down and then you realize that it aligns with these messages coming through from spirit for you, it's a beautiful moment. It's like full circle, and it was really really cool. And like I remember watching that show with my ex-husband and just crying. He was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No." Like I'm feeling
I'm not
so
okay.
I'm feeling so validated right now. And so I would love to have people like that, but I would also love for Ghost Tea to also expand outside of the podcast realm. Like I would love to
Mm.
have Ghost Tea become something where because Alyssa and I have both worked on missing person cases together. And that's something that we'll always continue to do. I do consider myself a medium, and she's a medium as well. And it's not something that we really, because I have people ask me all the time, do you offer mediumship readings? And I say no, but the reason why is because mediumship does take a lot of energy from me when I'm reaching someone specific, like
Yep.
rather than them coming to me. And I want to utilize the energy that I have to be able to do that for missing person cases, because that's like so much more important to me than a paying customer. And it's not to say that those paying customers and them wanting to get in touch with their loved ones is invalid, but that there are so many who already do that. And I want to be one of the people who is able to help on the other end of things and help
Yep.
with people finding their loved ones so that they can have that closure and they can have that peace. And so that's something really near and dear to my heart. And that's something that we'll end up implementing on my website for the Ghosty podcast, is a place where you can submit, your information about your missing loved ones so we can tune into them if
Hmm.
if that's something you guys want us to do. But I would also love to see it go more into the paranormal investigative realm.
Yes.
I would love to see it go there because I love paranormal investigation. It's one of my passions. It's something that I feel so um just over the moon about, and I would really love to bring that into what we're doing in Ghost Tea, and have Ghost Tea even become like, I don't know, a YouTube show or something. I have no idea. But I would love to see it go into a realm like that. Um, but I guess that kind of brings us to the last question that we have for the episode, is what makes you want to pursue this? Like what drove you to want to pursue Ghost Tea and also what you do in general?
Yeah, so I kind of touched a little bit about that earlier, really speaking to wanting to bring forward these topics that are, because the occult is
It's so broad.
it is so broad, and the history of the occult has largely been preserved by staying secretive and
Yeah.
mysterious and in the shadows. And we're in such a really interesting time right now where we're seeing so many people finding spirituality and I put in quotations awakening, if you will, or ascending, if you will, or just discovering themselves in a spiritual way and finding their paths. And it just seems to be, I don't know if there's any truth to this. That's just sort of anecdotally I'm feeling like it's really kind of booming at the moment. And
Hmm.
that's great, because it was not like that. I kind of mentioned that earlier. In my younger years, like, we had to lie and like sneak around the library, like it was not it was not
Yeah.
like it's not as readily accessible. And I just really love being able to show people that you're not alone and that your experiences are so valid. Like, that's one of the most important things to me, is constantly reminding people that they're valid,
Hmm.
because it is just it is insane. It's insane to me how invalidated people can feel from other
Yes.
people. And
Yes.
it's one of my biggest pet peeves. Because who are you to invalidate someone else's
Right.
experiences?
Right.
And I just, I'm so not for that. So I really started pursuing, I mean, Larusa Mystic was born from from a variety of different things. Like I love crystals. Like I'm a crystal freak. Like if you want to talk about crystals, I am your girl, trust.
Yes.
And it's also a place that I very heavily implement, you know, my love for essential oils and that the use of essential oils in witchcraft. But I'm also a reader. And one of the most beautiful things about reading is being able to provide people guidance and answers or support or comfort and healing. Like that, I get so much joy out
Yes.
of being able to bring people to a place of safety, a place of comfort, a place of belonging. Like there's no words to describe how happy that makes me, and I
Yeah.
know that you are the same, Ariel. and
Mm-hmm.
and even just like bringing it back to crystals, because please, when I see people sending pictures of the crystals that they get from me and in their house, using them in their on their altar spaces and
Oh.
giving, oh, I cannot describe it. Is the feeling is like I could cry, I swear. The feeling is like a proud crystal freak mom, and I'm just like,
Oh.
look at you go, rock star. Like I love it. And I just want to share this with the world. I want to talk about it. I want to be vulnerable. I want people
Yes.
to feel that they can be vulnerable. I want to just I'm flailing over here. I'm flailing. I'm just like, it's
Yes.
like I said, I was solo practitioner for so long that when I finally decided to get over the fear of coming to a public forum, you know, being social
Yes.
different forms of social media, and also, you know, the podcast as well, because this
Mm-hmm.
is reaching people. I don't know who you are that
Well,
you're listening, but
even
I
the
love you.
Discord too. The Discord has
The
been such a
Discord.
beautiful place for people to share their experiences as well, and just talking about
Exactly.
our different practices. And that's
And
so
I
cool.
love that. It's
I
the
love
coming
it.
together. There's so much you can learn by
Yes.
coming together. Um, and and so that's really why I started the Rusa Mystic, and why I was so passionate about being the co-host for Ghost Tea, is because the opportunities are limitless, the potential is limitless, and we are so aligned, you and
Yes.
I, in what we value and
Mm-hmm.
what drives us to continue doing what we do, and to use our gifts the way that we do, and to share with other people. Like it's just we're so in line. Like our wavelengths are
Yes.
so we're right on it. So
Yes.
to me it
Literally,
was a
there's been so many moments where like I'll wake up in the fucking middle of the night and I'll text her and I'll be like, dude, I just thought of something. And then she's like, oh my God, I'm getting up. Like I thought of the same
yeah,
exact thing.
I bitch, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I had work the next morning. I was like, I'm not,
Literally.
my ass is up out of the bed. I am going down. We are chatting about this. This is serious. Like
Tea
we are,
time, tea time.
oh, it is ghost tea time. Like
Yes.
we are talking about like we are so just the coming together is just, it's the most right thing, that
Yeah.
it just feels like the most right thing, that it's even hard to put into words. It's very difficult for me
Yeah.
to describe it. But really, all of my rambling is really just to come in to say that um, I love to I love to be a healer. And there's a variety of ways that you can heal people, but I love to be a healer. I love to help educate with things that at least that I feel that I am knowledgeable on, and I love to discuss with people. I like to learn. I'm a never-ending learner. I will be a learner until the day I die. I love to learn, and I love to learn from other people. I love to and like I said, bringing that sense of community. So for me, that is my driving factor for why I do what I do, and why coming on as a co-host for Ghost Tea podcast was just such a yes moment. It was
Yes.
like not even a second guessing. No
Yeah.
doubts were there.
Yeah. And I also would like to point out that Scott also predicted this as well.
Yes, he did.
Well,
He did.
we're both convinced that Scott and Corey are like witches, but they don't know
No,
it.
they're broom closet witches. They don't
They
even know.
absolutely,
They
absolutely.
don't
There's
even know.
no doubt in my mind. Like Corey, if you ever listen to this, I'm calling you out. You're a fucking
Yep.
witch.
God, same.
Witch. Yeah, no,
You're a
they're
witch.
so like they're so in tune, not only with the world around them, they're very observant. They're very
Super observant.
observant.
Yep.
But like there's been so many times that Corey is like, oh yeah, you're gonna do this. And I'm just like, and then, you know, a year later I'm like, what the fuck?
As if you predicted.
Yeah,
You're
well,
a wizard, Harry.
You're a wizard, Harry. Yeah, a couple months ago, Scott was like, "You and Ariel should start a podcast."
Yep.
And then
No,
literally, like,
he's called
yeah,
it.
he called
It's
it.
scary
He
how
called
many
it.
times he's called it. He's like,
It's honestly rude. Like,
it's so rude.
It's so rude that he calls out our wants before we want them. Like,
and then we're like, oh,
rude.
Rude. It's rude. I can't wait to get the two of them on this podcast.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
Oh my God.
Lord, I'm so ready. I'm ready.
Like, literally, palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy.
Yes.
I'm just like, oof, that is gonna be beautiful. So you know, I hope that we touched on topics that get you guys excited. And I hope that you have learned a little bit more about me and, you know, who the hell I am, and, you know, where Ariel and I are coming from for why it was such a beautiful decision to continue Ghost Tea from a co-hosting perspective.
Yes. And there's so many reasons why this is going to be such a good thing, but I know that some of my listeners know who Alyssa is just from seeing us do TikTok live streams together and things like that. You know, the TikTok AA meetings, and Ariel and Alyssa meetings, and just having so much fun on those. And so when I announced it, a lot of people on TikTok were like, "Fuck yeah, we're so ready!"
Hell yeah, rally.
So I'm super excited to bring her on, and there's already so many topics that we want to go over, but I also encourage you guys to reach out to us through either on Anchor or through my website. You can go to my website, the homepage. If you go to podcast up in the tab bar, it will take you to the Ghost Tea podcast page, and you can email us from there. But you can also, if you're on the Discord, which is linked, I believe, you know what, I'll link it in the description of this podcast episode, and Perfect. I'll just have it linked in there indefinitely. But if you want to join our Discord, we have a Discord called we might change the name, but right now it's the Covenstead. So it's a place where you can just find community in the spiritual realm, and find people who are supportive and helpful when you have questions. But I also want to mention, like, because I know that there are probably going to be people who are interested in booking with Alyssa or I, and I'll have both of our websites linked below, so you can find more information about us individually, but also find our shops and things like that if you would like to. And I think that's pretty much it. I'm super excited to see how this is going to go forward, and I'm super excited to see how this grows. And if you guys have any feedback, please reach out to us on Instagram or TikTok or wherever. And yeah, we'll be talking to you guys soon. We're really excited.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
I'm so excited.
I love you guys. I can't wait to talk to you again soon.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, stay curious, stay safe, and keep learning.
Keep
and we'll
learning.
Talk to you guys later. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.